Welcome to the Draft Board Hockey Show. My name is Mark, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Link. And today we got a special guest, Stephen Ellis. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
We are good. We are good. You know, talking some NHL draft prospects. Always love to do that. And today, actually, Stephen just released his newest ranking, so go check that out on Daily Faceoff. And the first thing we want to talk about, obviously, you got Gavin McKenna at number 1. Are there any, big concerns? Like, you hear about it, the point production is not to, the pace that we expect, especially considering, what he did last year in the WHL with Medicine Hat. And so, at the college level, he's not popping off like we had expected. What are your thoughts on Gavin McKenna?
So some of the concerns for me for a couple of years now has been kind of just like how engaged he is away from the puck. And I think when you look at the Hlinka Gretzky when he played on that 2 years ago in Edmonton, that was the one event where it was like, he's not dominating and he's not going out there and doing a ton away from the puck. And he was not one of the better players in that team. But then you go watch what he did at the U18s a few months before that, and Canada, no chance they win gold if it wasn't for his heroics in that championship game. So then you see him in the WHL and how dominant he was. And I think going to college and playing on a team where he was not going to be surrounded by super high-end talent. Like I know Penn State's still ranked high, but they're not a super deep team. Like there's not a lot of these guys that are going to be going to the NHL. They've got a lot more older guys, and you look at some of the guys he's played primarily with, not a ton of play drivers there. So then you're asking a 17-year-old to go and do a lot of that work. Well, that's difficult. Like when you look at what Celebrini was able to do at was a Boston University, it was like he did have a lot more talent to play with. And you see the numbers, and he was outstanding. You go look at Adam Fantilli. Like it's hard to not be good when you're playing for the University of Michigan. I think McKenna going to Penn State has not only kind of shown that he still needs to work on his play away from the puck, but the fact is that like he's going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting. And I feel like overall his point production has still been decent. Like he's got over a point per game still. It's some of those games against teams that weren't like Long Island University, like a team like that, are still no, like those are schools that Penn State probably should have had no issues with. And he, it is what it is. Although right now, kind of the way I'm looking at it is I still think that he's the number one guy, but the gap has closed a bit. But not so much that I'd be concerned about him losing the first overall pick. Like Keaton Verhoff isn't exactly, putting up the greatest numbers of all time. He's not dominating the NCAA by any means, but he's adjusting quite well. Ivor Stenberg's looking really good. He's had some decent players to lean on in Sweden, but regardless, it's still one of the best seasons of all time in the Swedish Pro League, which is a very strong league. And I think him being able to do that at a young age is really impressive. And then there's also Ethan Belchitz out of Windsor, who's looking really good. He's from Oakville, where I'm from, so I've been able to watch his development since he was about 13, 14 years old, and seeing him going out and dominate the way he's doing in the OHL. I got a feature on him coming out this week, actually. Like there's a lot to love about his game, and I think the competition for number one's a lot closer. But McKenna still does stuff that no one else can. Like he still has the best hockey sense. He's still the most skilled of anybody in this draft. Like if you had to go out there and win with any of those four names I mentioned, I still pick McKenna every single time. But, at the same time, it's not a runaway situation anymore.
I mean, that's an excellent point to really bring up with Penn State. I mean, one of I think the most important thing to remember with Penn State is that this is a relatively new NCAA program in general. This team was competing in the ACHA until 2012. So they've been slowly building up this program for years and years and years. And now it's the best that they've ever gotten it to. However, it's still not able to compete with Michigan State, Michigan, the powerhouses that are still going on today. Additionally, Gavin McKenna hasn't played with the top line. I mean, he hasn't played with the guys who've been real drivers like Serrato, Webush, and Di Marsico. He's been playing with Dane Dowiak, Reese Laubach, Luke Misa. And these guys aren't as big of drivers as the top line has been. So that's another thing that's important to remember. Additionally, also, like a third additionally to this thing is people are trying to be like, oh, Gavin McKenna, he hasn't been reliable on defense. Have you seen his defense that he's had to kind of play in front of as well? So there's a lot of factors that he really has kind of been stepping up in general. Yeah, you would like to see the point production be a little bit more. Maybe he needs to get more goals in some people's eyes, but I think he's been doing just fine compared to what a different situation he's had to deal with. So, I mean, again, right on, Stephen, pointing all those things out.
Yeah, like I'll also point out, like you look at kind of the way the offense has been distributed for the team, and it's been very like it's been the Weebush, it's been Serrato, it's been those guys that have been kind of the ones driving the play, and McKenna hasn't been kind of at their side. And then you look at the roster, and there's not a lot of guys here that you think are going to be NHL players. So I think that that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. Like I feel like if he was in the WHL dominating, then there'd be one of two things. One, it's why did he not challenge himself and go to the NCAA? And two, oh my gosh, he's the undisputed number one. This is super easy for him. Like, and he's not really improving his game by any means. Or he could have also gone to somewhere like Michigan State, University of Michigan, where I think some of the flaws in his defensive game or his play away from the puck might have, still been hidden a bit because they're deeper teams. But I think going to Penn State, the whole thing about them was like, he gets a lot, like he could have commanded a lot of money anywhere. And I know a lot of people are talking about like, oh, like NCAA guys with the NILs this year, like money's driving a lot of plays. Like the money that Gavin McKenna makes this year is minuscule compared to the money he's going to make the rest of his NHL career. But by going to Penn State, there were some new challenges I think he got to tackle. And I think it is going to be good for his development. It's okay for him to have these setbacks and not be this dominant force. Now, if he goes to the World Juniors and is invisible, I think that's going to be a bit more concerning. And I hate using that tournament because like that is such a short span. Everyone's playing different roles. But for him, it's going to go out there and just being consistent, be a dangerous threat every single night, and be a big part of that top six, I think is going to be really important. And if he's quiet, that's where I think there's a bit more reason for concern. And the fact that Penn State doesn't play hockey for like 40 days is also just like, okay, well, it's going to be a while till we see what he's capable of outside of the World Junior Camp in Niagara and everything from there.
Okay, so let's move on. You mentioned a couple of other players that were in contention, for top few picks. Keaton Vierhoff, Ivor Stenberg, Ethan Belchez. Love the placement for those players. You mentioned Ethan Belchez. Like I said, I'm from Windsor, so yeah, I get to see a lot of Ethan Belchez. You're from Oakville, so you get to see him in his younger days. What's the enticing part about Ethan Belchez's game?
He's like a maniac. Like he wants to go out there and beat up everybody, but then he's got the skill to make it work. Like you look at the last couple of draft years, and there's guys like Caden Lidstrom and Roger McQueen and Dean Letourneau and Ilya Protas. These guys that are just huge and are very difficult to contain. And when you're a bigger guy, like at this point to stand out, you have to have a bit more skill. Like you're not going to find many more Matt Rempe's going forward making to the NHL. You need to be able to go out there and be someone who could be effective with your big frame. And with Belchez being 6'5", nearly 230 pounds, and then he's also got the hockey sense and some very impressive hands. Like he's got those abilities, the ability to go out there and be productive. And he's got a great shot. He's shooting a lot more. He's getting a lot more puck touches than he was a year ago. And he's a bigger part of that Windsor team, a group that does have a lot of key offensive threats. And like Liam Greentree doesn't have to carry the offense anymore because a guy like Belchez can help take a lot of that load away. And it's very easy for him to overwhelm opponents. And the fact that he can also just chirp with the best of them. I've talked to some players who don't like to admit that Ethan Belchez is probably like the scariest guy to go up against, both with the puck and without the puck, and he is going to make you pay for it. So there's that, but he's a bit unhinged in the way he plays. Like he wants to go there and knock you down, but then he'll back it up by going and scoring that same shift. And a guy like that, a lot of teams are going to be really excited about him. Like he's much more physically advanced than someone like McKenna or Stenberg. And I think if Belchez, I wouldn't be surprised if he went up to number 3 in the draft because of the fact that he does so many things with the puck and without the puck. If he can work on his mobility, he'll be in good shape. And I feel like he's a lot quicker and a lot more mobile than he was in his OHL draft year. So as long as he continues to work on that and he knows that is something he's working on, I think he's going to be fine.
Well, yeah, it's been 2 years. I would hope so too. Yeah, he's looked really solid. Again, a big fan of him. My next question for you, Steven, is regarding the defensemen outside of the top 5. Obviously, Verhoff's number 1, but just kind of want to talk to you about what your process is when rating the guys like Lynn, Carrolls, Rudolph, Villeneuve, and Smits as well in this second tier of defenseman range here. Like, what was a key factor in ranking your defensemen here?
Well, I'm looking for a lot of what works in the NHL and what teams are looking for. I know Ryan Lynn lacks the size, but he's extremely creative. And I feel like from just talking to a lot of scouts, like they see so much upside in him and someone that can go out there and do a lot with the puck. He acts like a one-man breakout. often. And I got to see him up close at the Canada U18 summer training camp in Oakville, actually. Sorry if I keep mentioning Oakville. Like watching him and watching Landon Dupont and all the hype around him. And it's like Dupont wasn't close to what Ryan Lynn was going out there and doing. Even Verhoff couldn't keep up with Ryan Lynn, the way he was skating and moving the puck and the creativity. Like, he's not Lane Hudson, but he plays kind of a similar style of like, I want the puck on my stick. I want to make the decisions. And then he'll got someone like Chase Reed having a very good season in the OHL. The Greyhounds, I think there's, there might not be one super standout trait about his game, but what he does is he brings everything to the table, and that's going to make him a top 10 pick. Albert Smits, he's got that size. He's got the numbers you're looking for in the Finnish Pro League. Like, that's impressive. Rudolph might not be the flashiest guy, maybe not a top pairing guy, but could be one hell of a number, like a number 2 or number 3 defenseman, depending on the situation. And you look at Villeneuve, I know the size there. He's going to fall in the draft. No question about it. He's going to be one of those guys that most people kind of feel like, okay, they see the upside here, but no, he's going to fall because of a lack of size, especially when you've got guys like Carrolls or Rudolph or Smith's kind of in that same ballpark area. So with Villeneuve, I think it's going to be interesting to see, because like Verhoff feels like a lock for the World Junior team, but could Villeneuve also be there? That would be someone who could be there, because if like Zane Parekh, if he's not 100% completely healthy, like, you might need Villeneuve to go out there and be a power play guy for them and things like that. So it's a really interesting D group. We looked at all the excitement of the what was that? It was 2024 was the year of all the really good defensemen. This year's got a lot of really solid ones too, and maybe potentially down the line just as many high-end defenders. So we'll see. Good group, but you kind of, when you're making a list like this, you're looking at trying to balance the upside and then also what works in the NHL with the current archetypes. So you see a lot of the smaller defensemen are starting to kind of figure it out, but teams are still reluctant to take them high.
Okay, I had a question for you. JP Hurlburt, you got at number 12, one of the higher rankings for him, and luckily we're going to get to see him play at the CHL USA prospect game this week. Actually, tomorrow is the first game, right? Tomorrow and Wednesday. Yep. So what's the reasoning behind JP Hurlburt at 12, which is, he's obviously having a great season in the WHL.
I had a bunch of scouts telling me I put him too low, which was kind of interesting. And I think part of it is you look at the way his creativity is outstanding. And I do think he probably will fall. But I think with him, every night, Kamloops, like you could watch him on the ice and when he's not on the ice. And Kamloops like a different team, but he's not playing because he's just so important with those puck touches, how often he's got the puck, he's making things happen. You look at this and it feels like he's probably going to have a lot more assists than goals, but I feel like he's equally good at both. Like, he's got the creativity. He can be dominant power play. He's not going to be an all-around player, but you don't need him to be an all-around player. Like I mentioned that a lot with Cole Eiserman in his draft year, where you don't need to be great at everything to be a good NHL player. If you pair him with someone who can go out there and take the defensive responsibilities away, that's good. But in Hurlburt's case, I feel like his defensive game is a lot better than it was at the NTDP last year. And while there's still room to grow, the fact that he has been that much in improvement in his game, there's a lot more runway, I think, for him. Like, it feels like the offense is already there, and once everything else gets up there, he's going to be in such good shape. So teams like guys who put up points, he clearly knows how to put up points. I thought last year he was a lot better than his numbers suggested at the NTDP, but it felt like there were still some consistency issues. You can look now, clearly the fact that he's just going to be under 2 points per game in a whole season, like I'd say he's been pretty consistent.
Regarding Mathis Preston and Ryan Ruberek, they've come under fire from a lot of outlets early on in the season for either inconsistent play or just kind of, they both have their own issues and stuff like that. What was your rationale to kind of like leave those concerns at the door and put them both in your top 12?
Because teams still really like Rubrick. At least I know privately, a lot of teams still really like him. And they look at this and say, okay, it has been a bit of a fall.
I can see why. Big kid.
But, at the same time, Niagara is not as... I wonder if we'd be talking about any concerns if he was in London or Brentford or anywhere else.
Way.
I think part of it is it's just not a super dynamic team to be out there with. It doesn't matter who he plays with. I feel like a part of it is the situation there, but at the same time, like Rubrick, another example of good tournament play is watching him at the U18s last year. He was so good in front of the net. I feel like the way that he uses his size is a lot different than Belchet's, where Rubrick is not physically as big, but he moves better. I also think that he's got an outstanding shot. Like, no question about that one. He's adding a bit more physicality to his game. He's not shying away. There has been some concern for me dating back to his U8 or U16 days of some laziness. I also saw him score the coolest empty net goal I've ever seen in my entire life, where he scored a bar down, like, wrist shot goal from his own zone. You know, that's not easy to do. And to do it in a game, he had to shoot it over a bunch of guys, but hit the bar down. It was perfect. It was great. And he didn't look like he even cared one bit. But it feels like his competitive level, in my opinion, from games I've seen in person from him, it has improved. And I'm just, overall, there's a lot of traits that teams are looking for there in the size, with the shot, with like he does with the puck. Like, teams like that still. When it comes to Mathis Preston, I feel like it's been lost a bit. The fact that not having Berkeley Cat in there kind of hurts. Like, it feels like Preston has to do so much all the time. But having watched a lot of Spokane games this year, like, there are a few games where he's not the best player on the ice. It's just not a ton of high-end talent for him to play with. And I think that has definitely hurt him there. Like, you're going to see the offense is not going to be as high as people expected him. But you watch him in any showcase event, whether it be the Hlinka, whether it be the U17s or things like that, Youth Olympic Games, he'll be one of the best players on the ice every single shift. And I feel like this is going to be a really good 2-game showcase for him, where he's going to be surrounded by talent, and he's going to go out there and I think really impress with the way that he reads plays and makes decisions with the puck. So I still think it's too early to overreact. I know for Rubrick, I saw the one ranking that had him like late in the first round. I don't think he's going to be there late in the first round. I'm just being fully honest at this point.
Yeah.
All right, so then next on the list, I want to talk about the Swedes on this draft rankings. You got Hermanson, Gustafsson, Nordmark back to back to back, and with the addition of obviously Viggo Bjork. What's your thoughts on the Swedes in this draft class? You got them kind of in that same ballpark in the middle of the first there.
Yeah, with Hermanson and Nordmark, you watch them internationally, and they basically, there's no games where they don't do anything. Like, they're always doing something with the puck, except for that Hlinka Gretzky final, I believe it was. So I really like what their games are. Like, basically every time I watch them play, they're putting a ton of points on the board. They're so good on the power play. You want to be better at 5-on-5, but it feels like the Swedes would be just, without Hermanson or without Nordmark, would be in trouble most games. You look at Malte Gustafsson, he's got that size, 6'4", just gets in the way. Like, he could shut you down. He's not Albert Smith's level, but like, I feel like watching him play against his own age group, I really like the decisions he makes. He's not going out there. And like, one example is Gabriel Eliasson a couple of years ago, where big dude made some of the dumbest decisions with the puck I've ever seen. Or just like, he looked like he was trying to kill you instead of actually playing hockey. And when it comes to Gustafsson, there was that little bit of element of like, I will try to injure you, to now that's not really his game. It's like, all right, I'm going to just do whatever it takes to get in your way. And I like him there. And I know scouts probably like him even a bit more. With Bjork, I got him a little lower. I got him at 21. Put it this way, he's a great skater who can exploit open ice, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to do that at the next level, because it feels like we've seen him a lot of times get outsmarted pretty easily. Like, he's got those plays where you're like, whoa, like, on pure skill, he's out there making some great moves. A lot of times I'm like, that was a pretty unpredictable breakdown that just happened because you just didn't make the pass at the right time, or you tried to dance by guys who are not going to let that happen. And I think he still lacks that ideal size for NHL teams to get excited about him. But overall, this is a strong year for Swedish prospects, which is good. You know, it's sometimes you see a couple in the first round, sometimes you see not many. This year, I'm expecting we're going to see quite a few, because they've just got a lot of good talent, depth, a lot of good talent. They're going to be really good at the U18 World Championships in a few months, especially if Canada doesn't get all their best players. But I think a lot of skill and a lot of offense going for sure.
Awesome. Well, last question for you, Stephen, from my end at least. You ranked about 15 guys, or no, not 18 guys outside of your top 32. You went up to 50. Which one of those 18 guys do you see as guys that could not only climb into the first round, but potentially climb into the top 20 of this draft?
Gonna go with Oscar Hemming. He just needs to play hockey at this point, right? Like, it's been crazy because he hasn't been playing, and I loved him so much. One of my viewings last year, I loved him at the Hlinka. Like, every time he plays, he makes something happen. But then you look at Kitchener, and he goes to Sherwood Park, and he still hasn't played it. Now he's trying to fast track to go to the NCAA. It's like, geez, man, like this is not ideal. And like, this is someone who should have been on Finland's radar for the World Juniors. I don't know if he's going to be at this point anymore because he hasn't been playing, but because that's the thing, like his last actual hockey game he's got credit for was losing to Canada in the Hlinka Gretzky, like, was it the bronze medal game? Like, he has not played since then. So I feel like did Craig Budden put him top 10, I think, this week?
I think at 10.
And I don't disagree with it. Actually, I feel like that's where he'd probably be closer to if he was playing. But I keep dropping him because he's not playing, and it's hard to give him the benefit of the doubt at this point. So I actually really like that spot there by Craig. That's a really good pick. It's just he's got to play. And if he can do that, I think we're talking about someone who's going to rise up the rankings 100% there. Also, like, if I ever had to say his name out loud, but Adam Gollier from Slovakia. It feels like every time, like whenever I've written about a game that he's in, I always list him as a standout because he tends to just do so many great things. And watching him in Five Nations action earlier this month, like, was shutting guys down, no problem. And I remember watching him play against Sweden, where the Swedes absolutely just put a beating on the Slovaks, and yet he still scored. He was still effective. He was breaking out. Like, he's playing with so much confidence. So that's another guy I feel like is going to move up a bit more.
My last question for you is, are there any like dark horses in this draft that you potentially could see as a, draft day steal, kind of like a Zorovsky from last year that seems to be, doing some crazy things in the KHL right now? Is there a player that, I know it's early, but that you think that could be a really nice pickup for a team in maybe, late first, second round kind of realm where, it turns out to be a hidden gem, I guess you could say?
There's a lot of really good goalies coming out of the WHL this year. I like Harrison Bottiger. I talked to him yesterday. He was specifically, that is a guy that's just extremely calm. Everyone I talked to about him were like, this guy is as calm and relaxed as possible, but then like he just wants to have fun with teammates, and he's always making everyone smile. And I was asking him, like, what do you do to like kind of relax? And he builds Lego sets. Now, I don't know how much you guys are into Lego, but the two sets he specifically named was the Eiffel Tower and Titanic. And if you combine those two together, not only is it about $2,000 Canadian, it's also like 20,000 pieces between the two.
Oh.
When I see 100 pieces on a Lego set, I'm like, that's too many. So that's insane. But I think that also really helps kind of with his mental strength, and watching him play, he doesn't overcommit on shots. He's very like he's doesn't waste his movements. He tracks pucks really well, like better than most goalies in his age. So I feel like that's going to be a guy that's going to maybe be a very valuable player, maybe a number one goalie in the NHL one day. We'll see. And then Victor Plant was one guy I didn't put in my rankings because I do have some of the same concerns I have about his brother, Max Plant, from a couple years ago, where it's just, I'm not sure how he's going to handle the physicality, but Max Plant was like one of the best playmakers, one of my favorite players in his draft year. Like, I'm very excited about his future. And I think with Victor, I think he's going to continue to impress. And on an NTDP team with not many high-end talents, I feel like he's going to be one that's going to go high in the draft, or higher than many other of his teammates, because the way he thinks the game and is good both as a shooter and a passer. And I would put a lot of money on him being one of the top NCAA goal scorers when they're offensive leaders at some point, given both his brothers are right now. So, I'd say those are the guys I'm looking at.
This class honestly just keeps becoming more confusing and more confounding and more just like less consensus every single day. Obviously, we saw that with Craig Button's list that just came out today, that I was like, oh man, hold on. That's a lot of things that I need to think about for a little bit. But yeah, no, this class confounds me, but I honestly do think it's a really deep class, especially defensively. There's a lot of great defensemen to talk about. I just posted my own ranking, and I think I had like close to like 17 to 18 guys just be defensemen. I was like, oh my God, this is a lot. So it'll be very interesting. I'm very, very excited for us this year. But yeah, thank you so much, Stephen.
It's one where everyone's got to go in with a completely open mind on everyone. And that includes Gavin McKenna. It's like, yeah, he's a projected number one. He's a guy we've all been talking about for years. But it's very possible he could be not the number one come June. And as long as you do that, it's a fun draft class. I'm very excited about the goaltenders, actually. There's no elite goalies, but there seems to be more and more like showing up all the time, especially out west. There's a lot of good ones in WHL this year. So like I swear every time I do a segment of Western Front on Victory Plus, it's like we're talking about a goalie today, and it's like a new top goalie in the WHL that wasn't the top goalie last week and is now the top goalie this week, and he's amazing. So it's a good draft class.
Well, you know what? Thanks a lot, Stephen, for joining us. And if you want to check out his work, go over to Daily Faceoff. Stephen Ellis is there, and on Twitter and other social media sites. What other social media sites are you on there, Stephen?
I'm sort of on Blue Sky. I actually spend most of my time on Threads, but like not posting, just looking at it. I feel like it's actually a really nice app, but it's mostly people being mad at everything. So I just kind of use it for like technology news at this point.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, appreciate your time. And that's it for this episode. And as always, we'll see you soon. Cheers.